I'm Marcio Fonseca, CEO, President of GRSL. I'm here today to provide some updates, particularly the most recent news about our financing. And also, I'll be joined today by Daniel Schieber, VP Corporate Development, and we are going to be updating our investors and potential investors about what we are doing in Mexico.
Marcio, good to see you, and obviously Dan, look forward to speaking to you in a second as well. Look, Marcio, since you took over, this has been a sort of transformational year for you guys in 2025. Can you maybe remind us of some of the things that you put into place, not least of all the new team?
As the founder of the company, I'm a firm believer that we are just scratching our potential silver discovery in Mexico. And when I was invited to really become the CEO and build a team, and I brought Daniel and other individuals to really create a team, the key point was how to transform the company and really present to the market what we have. And we told the market that we are going to do some initial step-out drilling to confirm that we have not only one drill hole that was 101 meters at 306 grams per ton silver, but we have opportunity to drill similar holes. And we drilled there 75 meters at 260 grams per ton silver. And we are proving as management now that we have a ability to really raise capital and bring the funds necessary to move this company to the next stage. And what would be the next stage is more drilling, more catalysts, and resource updates. Have an engineering study next year, and then you can add more here. I'm going to move to him, but the market has been extremely receptive and welcome us as a new management, and this can be provided by some feedback that Daniel can provide to investors about how we've been trading. Daniel, can you comment on that?
Certainly. Thanks, Marcio, for the introduction. And Matthew, nice to meet you and your audience. I joined GRSL in October 1st officially, but had been working on the company since July when Marcio stepped in as CEO again. And we've really had a great time for the last 5 months. It's been a time where we've become the top 10 TSX venture trader. Our average liquidity is excellent. We trade 6.5 to 7 million shares a day. And that, of course, is because we're in a silver backdrop of $60 per ounce silver. But we're also delivering. We're delivering everything we said we would. We're delivering excellent results on the drill bit. We're delivering also permits. For the next 5 years, this company is permitted to go and explore and keep the news flow going. So as Marcio said, one of the main aspects for an investor to look at GRSL is its liquidity. You can come in, buy a whole bunch of shares, and also sell a bunch of shares if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you're an interesting person to speak to in the sense that you're new to it. You could have chosen to go to a bunch of places. What did you see, or what was sold to you, not just by Marcio, but some of the other directors too, in terms of what the potential could be? And you say that they couldn't deliver a whole bunch of stuff, but they haven't delivered at that point. So what were you buying into when you joined?
Well, the first thing I did was on June 27, I went to site. And I was impressed by the team that we have on site. This is a real group of people working for a real purpose, which is to unlock the enormous value at San Marcial and Plomosas. These are wide structures of silver, high-grade silver. And it reminded me of when I met Marcio 14 years ago. I started working with Marcio when he was VP Corp Dev at Silvercrest Mines, which they sold to First Majestic, and I was doing work for them as well. And it reminded me of that time where I was more active in Mexico and silver in Mexico. And it has been an opportunity to invest my time and also bring in new capital, which now we have quite a bit of. The company's never been in this position before, where we can carry out all of our plans, or are prepared to carry out all of our plans. So there was to your question, there was a diamond in the rough there. And right now we're starting to polish this diamond and unlock the value with capital and with a good silver price backdrop. Yeah.
Yeah, like in a market like this, where the futures it's sitting at 62, 64 bucks for silver, it feels like nothing can fail. But at the same time, you can't just be another silver explorer in Mexico, can you? So again, what when it comes to the delivering of the business plan, as it were, what do you see as the kind of important approach to this? What is the strategy? What is the market reacting to?
Well, one of the things that is very important is that this is an advanced stage silver company. We have 134 million ounces of silver equivalent that are growing. And they're growing at a very efficient rate. Our discovery cost per ounce of silver is 17 cents. So for every investor that is investing in GR Silver, when we put $1 in the ground, we get about 5 ounces of silver out of that, right? And so that is huge. The inflection point of 2026 for GR Silver is going to be significant because, as Marcio said, the plan is to grow the resource, come up with a new resource in 2026, and also wrap for the first time ever. It's never been done. I mean, we've done it internally, but it's never been done with a reflection to the public what the economics are going to look like for this project and what this project can actually do. Remember, 40 kilometers away, Vizslas is a $2.5 billion market cap company with a feasibility study. We're right there in that area. And we're growing in that direction as well.
Okay, well, Marcio, let me come back to you because you've raised some money recently. I think $17.5 million with this life deal and the private placement. You've got this two-pronged strategy, which is the kind of resource growth at San Marcial and obviously the Plomosas, the permitted Plomosas mine, I should say, as well. You're trying to advance on two fronts. You've got the money to do it. So how do you allocate that capital? What have you and the board agreed that you need to do in 2026 to move both of those along?
Sure. The financing was well received, and it's important to make a reference that was pretty much institutions and well-known individuals in the capital markets in Canada, because they saw the value that we have at San Marcial. And of course, when we saw the opportunity to increase the participation of institutions, we realized why not really be a healthy company from a financial point of view. Going back to your question, how to allocate the capital in relation to the financing, post-closing, which we are expecting next week, we are going to have a cash position very close to $28 million Canadian dollars. It's really healthy for a company like us. It's the healthiest position this company ever been. So what we are going to do, we are going to split this between a material aggressive step-out drilling and some exploration drilling in some new areas to really multiply the size of the resource at San Marcial. That's the core, the resource growth. But also, we are working, that's why I was in Mexico last week, to look for alternatives, how we can bring Plomosas back into production from a pilot plant perspective, looking for alternatives. Can we buy a pilot plant? Can we buy some existing available plants that we can put on place? And why we are doing that? Because we are about to finish the bulk sample test mining, metallurgical test work, and engineering. So we have the numbers now. Now we have the numbers. We can allocate some costs. So that's the split. It's pretty much a lot of drilling. We in Mexico are planning now how we can be very aggressive in the first half of 2026 to drill in 6 months, probably more than we ever drilled at San Marcial. There's multiple drill rigs. And advance more towards the pilot plant by the second half of 2026.
So you've got this kind of 5-year drilling permit. So just give it to me in meters or in dollar terms. What the plan is for?
In the last probably 3.5 years, we have drilled 18,000 meters of drilling at San Marcial, and we got the 68 million ounces indicated and inferred. We want at least to double the amount of drilling next year in the area. Okay? So that's the benchmark here. The start point is, can we do that with the capital and the 5-year drilling permit? the 46 drill sites that we can put drill rig on site, we believe we can do that.
Okay, with a lot of drilling done to date, and obviously the money's here, you're still going to be focused on being efficient, right? So in terms of what you learnt from the drilling so far, how do you vector in? How do you target? How do you model more efficiently for next year's program? What are you chasing?
We went through a 1 year of really detailed study of all the drill hole data with experts helping us to understand why we hit that 100 meters at 306 grams per ton of silver, why it was so anomalous. And this year we went back with the model to test, and we hit 75 meters at 260 grams per ton of silver. So, and we've been hitting similar or almost like type of high-grade silver-white structures. And the way we do this is because we put all the model back together on the geophysics and geochemistry, and the exploration team in Mexico with the support of Paulo Montoya. Paulo Montoya, for reference, was one of the key experts to delineate the San Dimas silver mine, that's deposit, that's First Majestic, one of the best First Majestic silver mines. She's really well known in the epithermal silver space. So now we believe we have very good understanding of the signatures and the major pathfinders and drivers where the silver mineralization is located in relation to structures. So that gives us a better way to guide the drill holes and orient them.
So because I think when we talked before, we were talking about these kind of hydrothermal breccias, which appear to be continuous for about 400 meters below surface. How does that help you in terms of planning resource growth, so understanding things like that, and trying to, I guess, test the size of the envelope?
In my experience, and Daniel can comment here as well, it's very important when you look at a mineral deposit, what's the thickness, what's the length, and what's the grade. The grade ounces, right? So that's the geometry. Having an average thickness of 25 meters allows us to have wide space drill holes. You don't need to drill every 20 meters apart. We can drill 75 to 100 meters apart. That means efficiency in drilling. We can really cover more space, a much longer footprint with a drilling program. The other point, we are still very shallow. All the drilling is maximum 300, 350 meters below the surface. And it's very common in Mexico. Mines can go up to 500 meters below the surface, no? And these would be the elements where we can really say, let's play with this model that's wide, high grade, because we believe we can go with the drilling that we've been releasing now. We believe we can be in the 250, 300 grams per ton silver plus material with wide intersections, which is extremely attractive for the bulk mineable potential scale of an underground mine in San Marcial. And the other point is, like, as you probably have seen, more and more we are just reporting silver grade because San Marcial is unique. It's a silver deposit. The content of lead and zinc is very low. And we believe with the previous test work that we have done, we can even, as we move next year to the PEA, might be defining a potential project to produce a Dory, which has a premium, or a silver concentrate. Okay?
Well, it's kind of interesting from a couple of angles there. One, I think some of the companies that come and talk to us, you believe that they get some value, they get a premium for being a primary silver company, rather than having low base metals and so forth involved there. So there's a kind of perception in the market that that's what the big guys want. Some of the big purchases this year and last year were on that basis. That's interesting. But in terms of the exploration, in terms of that kind of ultimate development pathway that you're seeking, how does that help you or hinder you?
Yeah, one thing that helps a lot, Matthew, and we just came back from Switzerland talking to the offtakers, and the metals that and the content that we would eventually, when this mine comes in line, is more valuable to them the higher content of silver it has. So it commands a premium, and it's one thing that can help us in many ways, such as offtake financing and equity involvement from different parties that want access to the metal. Remember, this metal is in a bit of a squeeze. I don't know if you've looked at the LME levels of silver, but they're at historical lows. That's why the silver is spiky. So access to the actual silver is critical. Yeah, and we have it.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. So Marcio, just trying to understand a little bit technically, if you don't mind. So you've kind of got these, San Marcial specifically. Okay, you've got this kind of very large untested area, which is, correct me if I'm wrong. You said so it's largely intrusive related geophysical anomaly, right? So I think that's what we've talked about in the past. Is again, how do you go prioritizing these step outs that you talked about earlier in 2026 and be efficient, and how much of that kind of 80% untested area do you think you can get through in 2026? Because it's like, it feels like you don't want to step out for the sake of stepping out and talk about this potential, the size of the envelope here. It's got to be, how do we start commercializing the message for the marketplace by with the step out program for next year?
The company have two approach situation here. We have the area of the resource, which we want to double the footprint of the resource down plunge along the deposit. So we are going to, the definition of step out is probably we're going to increase more 600 to 800 meters of strike length on the footprint. That's one point. The second point is we have discovered parallel zones that are not in the resource model, and they are very close by the resource. So we are going to put some wide space drill holes there to try to define an inferred resource. So that's the point. That's going to continue to expand us from the current 20% of the testing area of the anomaly, trying to get this more close to 40, 45%. That's the air range. But still have a lot of area to cover. But like you said, we cannot really be chasing everything at the same time in 2026. So the resource growth is priority, because this is one thing that we believe, that growing the resource and showing to the market that we can have a deposit that's much bigger with 250, 300 grams per ton of silver is very attractive and will likely, in my opinion, provide conditions to re-rate this company from the current market cap to much higher market cap.
Yeah. Okay. Focus. Good. Okay. Right. Let's jump over to Plomosis if you don't mind, because like I say, you've got this twin track thing going on here. You kind of completed 2 phases of the underground channel sampling across multiple sites. Can you and multiple zones? Can you talk a little bit about where you think the value of that's going to come from? Because you kind of got maybe like 1,000 gram per ton silver equivalent in some places, right? It's exciting.
To make clear to all investors that why we are doing the bulk sampling test mining program at Plomosis is because although Mexico has improved materially in the permitting process, permitting still is a time-consuming process. Nobody gets permit in 30 days. It takes months or sometimes years. And we have an area that's 5 kilometers from San Marcial, which we have most of permits, including water permit, which is extremely valuable in Mexico. And we have some infrastructure such as tailings, power lines, and buildings. We realized that applying the bulk sample test mining approach, that go underground, find high-grade zones, we call that kilos of samples, we send to the labs, we are proving that the material can be recovered, and a lead and zinc concentrate can be produced with good content of silver, can help us to guide us how to bring a pilot plant to the site and use this as a seed concept, where from the pilot plant we can go back to the government and say, can we expand our permit and bring San Marcial under the same umbrella? instead of start from zero and wait for 2 years. Maybe, I might be optimistic here, we might wait for 6 months, 9 months, which will be a record. It would be an approach that it's more like to de-risk the project development. By the time you do a PEA by the end of next year, you might hear that the company is in the process to apply for an expansion of the permit, which can tell the market, send the right signal that we are not really doing a PEA. We are doing a PEA, but also looking for development.
Interesting. Okay, so this is some real strategy. That's really interesting. Okay, and so there remains some sort of technical and permitting milestones between now and getting an on-site plant, right?
Yep.
So, that's where you're working towards. That makes a lot of sense. In terms of the, I think again we talked about previously like laser scanning, the underground workings, etc., and kind of defining potential stope blocks for bulk sampling. How are you advancing on that front?
We have defined 21 areas inside the mine.
Yeah.
Where we can drive, we can blast, we can extract material. We don't need to have any capital expenditure to dig tunnels to develop. The face is there. That's why we sampled and we released those samples and we defined the high grade. And we went there, it took a series of kilos of samples, a large batch of samples. That's why we sent to the lab to do the test work. Because as you know, we have a lot of history of production, but the engineers want to have the most recent recovery numbers and consumptions. We did the test work, and now we are putting together that into the concept, how can you put a mine plan there to provide material to the pilot plant. And at some stage, we are identifying areas inside the mine with piles of material that was stockpiled by Grupo Mexico and not processed. We need to evaluate. That might be potential feed to the pilot plant as well. But keep in mind that this is an approach that we want to put a pilot plant to secure our way to get the social license for a much bigger project. And also use this infrastructure that's on site. There's a tailings site on site that's ready to be used. It's permitted. So in the future development of project, I'm not going to have in the CapEx construction and permitting of tailings because it's already there.
It's kind of interesting, actually. I'm just sort of looking, obviously we went down today, which was great, but I mean, you've got a new country manager as well, but it kind of feels like the mentality is, yes, we're exploring, and yes, we're kind of building out the resource, but we're also got an eye to how do we maximize the ability to get into production and reduce the time frame as well. So can you talk about how you think you're gonna have to build the team out to be able to talk that language, which is one thing, but also deliver it?
For sure, like Dan said at the beginning, I'm a firm believer in it. Team is one of the most important assets of a company. If you don't have a team, you cannot build a company. We built a great team, exploration team, and now we are building a pre-production development team. Now we are bringing people that have expertise in operating mines, building plants, building projects. You made a reference to the country manager. He was fundamental for a very successful story in Mexico. That was Coeur d'Alene, Palmarejo, silver mine. He was there from the exploration all the way to the construction operation. That kind of individual is important because there are many levels of interactions with the authorities in Mexico, permitting and contractors, construction. That's important. And he's already full-time with us. And we're about to engage more engineers now. Going back to this approach of why Plomosas and San Marcial is, it's possible to get permits in Mexico, but it's more the variable time. When you play the time costs money. And you can have a beautiful PEA, an amazing feasibility study, but if you don't have the permits, what's the value of that? So we are trying to de-risk earlier on in the process. And for investors, when they look at GRSL, when they put a PEA to the public domain, there'll be some reference about which permits are in place. If you go to another phase of pre-feasibility or feasibility, we are going to be ahead in the curve about in the permitting process and what we can operate or not.
Okay, people. Dan, what for you? Like you've been on the road. You talk to investors when you're trying to persuade them that the current multiple on a 134 million ounce silver equivalent company can be better. What are the things do you think that they need to see executed and delivered next year to believe that this company's got growth in store?
Good question. I mean, it's the metric's very simple because it's almost one for one relationship silver ounce to market cap. And on an EV basis, maybe less so because now we have 28 in the bank. We're about to when December 15th. But one of the things that we point to is we've been in Toronto. The analysts are telling us the in situ valuation for a comparable company is should be in the $3 to $4 per ounce range. So we multiply 134 times 3 or 4. That's where valuation should be in situ, based on the analysts. That's something else that Marcio and I have been working on diligently, is to increase our analyst coverage. So you're going to see more of that coming in the early part of next year. And will help guide prospective new investors to get a view on where we're sitting in terms of an opportunity to be valued. And but one of the things that I always like to point out too is our neighbor Vizsla, right? Because they are market leading and they are perhaps 15-18 months ahead of us in terms of de-risking their project. Feasibility study came out three weeks ago and showed a showcase of a 17 million ounce a year production situation that they could have. And in terms of their resource, they're maybe 3 times larger than we are. So we're not 3 times smaller than they are. We're about 20 times smaller than they are in terms of market cap. So there's a lot of gap that we can catch up to. And the company has just recently, since Marcio and I started really working on this in the middle of this year, started to increase its institutional shareholder base. It has been largely, I would say, even 90% retail. That's why the volume is so high. But the amount of institutional support is going to ground base the shareholding and allow for the volumes to also help move. And you're seeing that in the stock. So we're here to make money, Matthew. And I think we're going to win on this, with this with the silver price, and also the fact that we're capitalized to carry out our plans.
Marcio, for you, next year is a big year of execution. It's been a transformational year this year, but next year, executing that thought process, you're going to issue guidance to the market in Q1, presumably?
That's true. Like we expect by sometime in January to come more clear on what's the guidance of what will be the major milestones that we want to achieve for the year. It's just as we are about to close a material financing, we need to go back to the drawing board and say, now with $28.8 million in the bank, what can you do in this certain time with the staff and the availability of drill rigs in Mexico? Keep in mind that we are looking maybe to have a material drilling program going on there.
Well, guys, I appreciate you making the time for us at the end of the year. And you've been traveling a lot as well. So stay in touch next year. Look forward to seeing what you can do with this. More of the same, please. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Cheers,
Thank
Matthew.
you.
Thank you.